Thank you. What you're going to hear is a very similar presentation of labs that have basically banded together to try and coordinate, this time in the US. The organization I'm going to talk to you about is something called the National Association of Marine Laboratories. It's basically a consortium of most of the marine labs in the United States, over 100 of them, that have come together since about 1990 to coordinate some of their activities. There are, in addition to the National Lab, what you saw in the title I was originally asked to talk about is the Western Association of Marine Labs is one of the 3 regional chapters that get together and look at things a little bit more from the regional perspective. You can see here how we blanket the US, including the Great Lakes, and you can see in the different colors the areas for the 3 regional chapters. I told you see a very similar presentation. You just saw the windows on the ocean. We did not coordinate our presentations, as you can see, because we call it windows on the sea. So obviously a lot of difference. And as you take a look at the kind of activities that you see there under research, education, and outreach, very, very similar. Essentially, these organizations have come together to coordinate their research, and basically to talk about education as an example. There are a lot of courses that at an individual lab might be too small to teach, but if you can gather students from other marine labs to come there, or you can do remote teaching, it makes it a little bit more palatable to do that. So those are the kind of things that are talked about. And then outreach, kind of transitioning those to the mission, again, very similar to what you just saw. A lot of organization around coordinating research activities, looking for ways to leverage what other people are doing. There's also a lot of communication aspects too. How do you communicate what it is that the labs do? And more importantly, how do you advocate for what the labs do? Because there's a lot of work that has to be done to support the programs at the national level, such as the National Science Foundation has a program for marine labs to support them. So what are the kind of things that those labs need out of that kind of program? So there's some planning activities that go on in that area. But the 2 things that the 2 primary questions you asked me to address as you kind of move forward with this is, what could NAML contribute to it's supposed to see a Geo Observatory network, but I think there are a number of things. First off, a great set of sampling locations. I mean, you have over 100 places that are distributed from the very urban type of facility that I talked about as my home facility yesterday to the kind of place that Neil's at, which is pretty far away from about anywhere. And most of these programs have a lot of ongoing monitoring programs. They are, in fact, observatories. And for those that don't have the programs that you want, almost all of them have some sort of visiting scientist program. So if you're looking to make collections to enhance the genomic databases that you have, tremendous place to work out of. There's also a lot of expertise at these labs, and so a lot of things you can draw from there, but probably the biggest one is the last one. If you're trying to create a network, and essentially you're talking about a network of networks, there are over 100 labs. How do you communicate with them? NAML is a wonderful way to communicate with them. There are essentially email lists and communication mechanisms that way, but each of the regional chapters has an annual meeting that most of the lab directors attend. And then if there's, I think it's about every other year we're on a cycle for doing a national meeting where all the labs get together. So what could NAML gain? Why would NAML want to participate in this observatory network? Well, I'd start off with strategic planning. As the labs try and move forward, what are the things that they want to work towards? What are the kind of common products that they might be able to produce? Well, the same kind of common products you all are talking about generating are exactly the kind of things that would help them come together as a network, because although we are this association, we are a pretty loose connection of labs. So the more of these kind of project areas that we can develop, the more that ties us together. So it's a good thing for us. Training, and it's kind of interesting, you see how I wrote it. What is to you standardization is in fact training to a lot of these labs. You've got a tremendous amount of expertise in this room, and as you develop either the collection protocol or the preservation protocol or the data standardization protocol. There are a lot of labs that haven't done this yet, and so what they're going to do, in absence of you all coming together, is they're going to go do it either on their own, or they're going to read one journal article and do it based upon that, because there's one researcher up for the lab. If you can develop these protocols and get them out, you're actually helping these labs move forward. Shared capacity, one of the things I mentioned to you yesterday is that I don't have a sequencer at my location. And in fact, it was interesting, Neil asked the question, how many, and half of you don't. I will tell you most of the marine labs don't. And the reason they don't is try putting all that kind of equipment in a lot of sea air. It doesn't do well for the equipment, it doesn't do well for the measurements. But there's a lot of capacity, much as in my lab, a lot of capacity for collection. It's not hard for us to do the extractions, but what do we do with them there? So the kind of thing you can set up as a network that gets people working together would be great. And the last point I have for you there is, you asked me the question, what can NAML gain from an observatory network? Turns out we're going to have an opportunity to find out. The Western Association of Marine Labs is holding its next meeting in 3 weeks, and based upon the fact that you're all holding this, we got Neil Davies, your very own Neil Davies, on the agenda for 2 hours to explain what comes out of this meeting and why they should care. And we'll see if they respond to him. That's it.